Now the coving's been removed, I've had a good chance to assess the situation, and one of the things that used to really annoy me was along this section of wall here. The coving actually took a bit of a dip, and now I can understand why the coving took a bit of a dip. Was because the ceiling, as I can only assume, has dropped don't know if you can make out that step. But it's weird, it's almost as if they started on this side of the room and finish here and then just had to sort of fill in with a small section of plasterboard. I don't know. Anyway, one thing I did sort of quickly suss out is once all that was removed, I thought, well, why is it like that? Has it dropped? And actually, literally just with a broom, if I can replicate it now, but I was able to quite easily just push up with a broom, and I was able to sort of, although not completely flat and flush, I was able to reduce that droop significantly. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of CLS and prop it against the floor and the ceiling and jam it in, and see if I can try and force the plasterboard up. But before I do that, I'm going to cut an exploratory hole using a hole saw. I can assume that that taped joint there, I'm going to measure 400mm along and then do my exploratory hole with a hole saw and hopefully pick up a ceiling rafter. If not, I'll be able to fish around with a bit of wire and find out where the closest ceiling rafter is, and then I'll be able to put some fixings in once the ceiling's been propped up. So that's the plan of action. Let's give it a whirl. Oops. Okay. I feel wires up there. I can't feel nothing nowhere. Right, so after my exploratory hole was unfruitful and it didn't make much sense to me, basically I couldn't find any ceiling rafters running this way, which is what I suspected because that's the shortest route across the room. To my surprise, I actually went upstairs into the remainder of the loft because this house is basically a chalet bungalow, it's been converted. And essentially the ceiling rafters are actually running this way, and essentially that sheet of plasterboard there wasn't actually catching hardly any of the rafter on the edge. So I've basically gone upstairs, I've ripped the carpet up in the bedroom, shifted all the furniture around, and I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to insert a piece of batten or CLS alongside this timber as far as I possibly can, and hopefully get some fixings through the side, and then that will allow me to then fasten the plasterboard up through into the new piece of CLS or batten, and hopefully that should tie it all in together. Well, that's the plan. I'll take you upstairs now and show you upstairs. I've got to remove the floorboards yet, so I've got no idea of access. So let's go and have a look. So yeah, so much for a nice little easy job. A little bit of light decorating and removing some coving. And it's turned out to be a bit of a mammoth thing. So here we go. Fortunately, I've actually cut this section of floorboard up before in the past when I did some rewiring. I hastened to add all this part P nonsense. So what I'm hoping is I'll be able to lift this section of floorboard and then be able to put a piece of batten or CLS alongside that ceiling joist below, and hopefully that will give me something for the plasterboard to carry. So let's have a look. Okay, so what I think they've done is they've gone 400mm centres between the new joists. It's not this one here, that's just a batten that's attached to the side of the joists. So what I've done is I've basically, the joist starts on that line there. So I've measured across at 400mm intervals and then put a cross to indicate where the middle of the joist would be. So that's the first one. The second one here is 800 and then across to 1200mm. That's where I'm expecting the ceiling rafter underneath to be, approximately there. So what I'm going to do is just cut this single section out here, and then hopefully that will give me access without disturbing too much more of the floor. So all I've done, I used my big square, measured a right angle from the joint here and projected across, and I'm just going to cut that section out using my little Makita circular saw. Just setting up the depth of the saw because I don't want to cut unnecessarily into the joist. So remove the battery, slide the guide out of the way, and then depth adjustment is this cam lock here. And just bring it up and then drop the saw down until it just touches, and then you can secure the cam lock, and that won't cut unnecessarily into any of the original timbers. Yeah, you can do your best, can't you? So my projections worked for the first one. That was pretty much spot on. It's bang in the centre, but the other one is way back there. So what I'll probably end up doing is I'll probably just replace this section, cut right back and pick up on the centre line and just replace this whole one, make a proper inspection hatch out of it. But as you can see, that's the hole I drilled from underneath, and at least now it's all exposed. And that was the cable I was saying about earlier. At least now I can actually put something across here, prop up the plasterboard and actually fix and secure it properly, fixing the problem once and for all. Cool. Cool. So I basically measured them as long as I could get them without fouling on anything and being able to get them in the hole. It's roughly about 1100 long. So what I'll do now is I'll fasten those to the side of the ceiling rafters, and then what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to fix the plasterboard into here and be able to get a good solid fixing and get multiple screws in there, which hopefully should prevent it from coming adrift again in the future. Job done. Unfortunately, I got a bit carried away with myself. I came downstairs and I actually propped up underneath and didn't actually capture any footage of it. But if I just spin the camera around again, how do I do that? So as you can see now, all I've done is I've just used a bit of 2.4 CLS and another bit of CLS just to spread the load. And all I've done is I've propped it up and then banged it in at the top, and as I've banged it in at the top, it's basically pushed it up hard against the ceiling where it should be, so now that's resting against the new piece of roofing batten that I put in. And now I'll be able to get a few fixings along there, and hopefully that should remain fast this time. And it's now completely flat, which should make a huge difference aesthetically. And I'm hoping as well that this being suspended properly along here will actually alleviate and prevent any more of the cracking that's happened here, because I'm sure all of this movement is what's caused this movement along here, and which opened that crack up, which actually extends across the ceiling there. But I think that should be okay. I think I should just be able to gouge that out and put some fine filler in there, and hopefully that should be good enough. Used to have bleach in this bottle, so I'll just put some fresh water in there and I'm just rinsing it through. So I don't know whether this is going to work or not, but let's see. I'm going to take some PVA . Oops. It's a bit thick. remember back in the day, this is one of the things that they used to make the apprentices do, and they used to be in like 25 litre drums. It's absolutely massive, and you'd have basically washing up liquid bottles, so the top was even smaller than this, and you'd have to try and pour it in, and inevitably you always end up in a right mess, and then all the bench joiners around laughing at the new guy. I think that'll be enough. Stick it all back in the bottle. So I think I'm going to do like a 50-50. There you go, that's about right. Put the lid on. Good shape. I've got no idea whether this will work or not, but I thought it's worth a shout. I'll show you what I'm doing in a minute. Okay, so my idea being is some of the cracks are really quite deep, and it would be very, very difficult using PVA and a brush to get right in there. Hence, that's why I thought the trigger bottle, with it diluted down, I might be able to, yeah, that's working. Sort of, yep, that's good. That's working a treat, actually. So I'm able to squeeze that right in. And hopefully, that should bind it all together, consolidate it. And the bonding coat plaster should stick a lot better to it. Quite stiffen right up now. I think I might have to dilute that some more. But in principle, it seems to work. So the last bottle I tried didn't work very well. I'd only managed to do that one small area, and it quickly blocked up. But it would appear that Mr. Muscle window cleaner bottle seems to work quite well. So let's give that a try. And indeed, that seems to be working a treat. That's brilliant, that's got right in there. Superb. I'm just hoping that will consolidate all that and actually give a good surface for the bonding plaster to bond to. So far, that seems to be working quite well. Next big one is this corner here. This is really quite bad. It's quite deep. So, hence why I thought the spray bottle would be a great idea. It should penetrate right in there and hopefully provide a good key. There's absolutely no way I'd have got in there with a brush. It's a little bit of a mess, but I'm planning on wiping over all these surfaces anyway with a bit of sugar soap so I can wash off any of the excess. That's brilliant. That's working really well. I hope I've managed to capture most of this. It's a bit tricky working off a ladder, filming, and spraying. Be a good one as well. So that'll penetrate right up deep. Excellent. Oops. Made a mess. I probably won't film that bit up there. I'll have to clean up all this mess and what have you, but you get the idea. That worked really well. trying something a bit different this time. I'm doing the camera the other way around, so I'm using the front face camera so I can actually see what I'm recording. So hopefully I'll be able to capture my beautiful face. Right, so I've basically cleaned all the walls up ready, and I'm now ready to start filling with some bonding coat plaster. So anyone that doesn't know, bonding coat plaster is like the undercoat plaster that they use against the face of the brick or the substrate of the wall, and that builds up like the bulk of the material, and then that will flatten the surface generally, ready to accept the thinner, finer finish coat plaster, which I probably won't be doing on this at all. All I'll be doing is doing the bonding coat, and then I'll do that as flat as possible, and then I'll just finish off with a little bit of very, very fine filler type plaster. It's not the proper professional way to do it, but I'm not a very good plasterer, so it's what I'm going to do. So I had to buy a whole bag because you can't get this in smaller bags, unfortunately. It's about £9 with a discount I get from B&Q. It's widely available, but this is what it is. Thistle bonding coat plaster. What I'm going to do, carefully slip the bag. You carefully slip the bag because you want to be able to reseal it as best as possible, because this will actually last quite a long time if it's kept dry, kept out of the damp, so you can use it for like multiple projects. Especially for the sort of small stuff that I do, it's perfectly adequate. So like filling in back boxes or chasing in is absolutely ideal for that. So I don't know if you can see, I filled the water up to about there. I only need to make up a small amount. I don't do this very often, so I'll probably mix up way more than I actually need. Right, I've never tried this before. Normally I just I use a piece of batten, just mix it up by hand by vigorously stirring, and that's normally perfectly adequate. But I do actually have a little whisk, and I'm going to try it with my little cordless drill, so I don't know how this is going to work out, but doing it well. I'm doing a slow speed, I think. Move the camera. That's a lot easier than doing it by hand. Yeah, put a little bit too much. yeah, definitely worth getting one of those whisks. That works really well. I think the problem I've had before, because I have done it before, but I had a much bigger whisk, and I was using it in an old drill that I had, and I think it really struggled. But that small whisk worked really well. It was really easy. Tidy up my mess. Right, let's just load up. Lovely thing this, it's a very small plasterer's hawk. I think it might be for sort of like dry lining and filling rather than actual plastering, but if you're not very good and you're only doing small amounts, it's absolutely perfect. It's nice and light. There we go. So, load up the hawk. Take our trowel and let's have a go. So that's all nicely consolidated now. The glue's gone off and it's not all crumbly. So hopefully now, when I squeeze with the plaster in, it will stay there. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put it in with a little bit of a flick to force it right into the cracks. I want as much material to go in as possible, because it will form one solid lump then. Again, I'm trying to force as much material into the corners as possible, because that will be one single consolidated piece of plaster, because this bonding coat plaster is actually quite strong. And while it's very wet at this stage, the trick is to not mess around with it too much. Just get it in, allow it to go off and solidify, and then you can come back and finalise it after. You can actually get quite a good finish with this. So really trying to squeeze that material up into the gap, and hopefully it will, not the technical term, but it will splurge either side behind, and then that will grab hold, a bit like the old-fashioned plastering method of using laths. So the bonding coat plaster would go in between the laths and behind, curl over, and that would be what held it all together. expert either, so it would be a considerable improvement. And that was here before. Time to switch to time lapse.